Thank you, Chrissy. Excellent introduction. Thank you to Stu, Jackson, the rest of the team. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, to come along and hear the Caspin Resources story, a story which is happening right here in your own backyard here in New South Wales. Now, a little bit of background. Well, most of you will probably, that have been to this conference over the years, will recognise Caspin. There's a slightly different flavour to the company's profile now. New project. We're going to talk a lot about the Bygoo tin project. But we've still got the same board and management team in place. For those that don't remember, Justin Tremaine is our chair. He's also the managing director of Turaco Gold, a fantastic gold story that's had a hell of a run over the last 12 months in West Africa. John Horonsky, a very notable or eminent geoscientist, works on boards of considerable size on the ASX and also consults to many global players. Myself, I'm a geologist. I've been in this game for 30 years now, on boards in the junior mining space for 15 years. So I've been around the traps a bit, and Steve Wood has been on that journey with us now for, I've been working with Steve for 15 years. So very competent and capable board. Now the pro forma cap structure, as some of you may know, the good news out there is that we were able to raise some additional capital to continue our work at Bygoo last week. So I guess take all that information there. All you really need to know is that the company is funded to meet its short-term goals. We're still going through the settlement of that, and that's what represented on that table there. Very pleased to have that support from a lot of our existing and new shareholders. So, as alluded to, a different direction for the company now in 2025. The Bygoo tin project was presented to us last year, and it took me about 5 seconds to recognise it was a fantastic opportunity for us. It is right in the sweet spot of Caspin's capabilities, an early to advanced exploration project in tin, a commodity that has been overlooked and unloved for decades, but has enormous opportunity. But even without that macro background, this is a fantastic discovery opportunity that creates so much wealth in our industry. We still hold on to our Mount Squires project that Chrissy alluded to, and the Yarrawinda Brook project, nickel copper PGE stories there, as well as rare earth at Mount Squires. We think there's a lot of inherent value on those projects. It's a challenging time in nickel, a challenging time in PGEs, but we still believe there's a lot of strategic value in those projects, so we'll be doing small amounts of work to continue to advance those. But for now, over the next 12, 18, 24 months, it's really about Bygoo. So why did we like it? What grabbed our attention? And it is really about high-grade tin. There hasn't been a lot of work in the last 30 or 40 years, but what there has been has demonstrated high-grade tin at the Bygoo North prospect, and we'll focus on that mostly in this presentation. But it's also, in Horonsky terms, an exploration of this exploration search space. So what does that mean? Well, in this case, not only are we taking an asset that hasn't been explored for a long period of time, but also consolidating some tenements and opening up the area for new discoveries to be made. Now, importantly, those discoveries so far today have been cassiterite mineralisation. So for those of you that have seen the previous presentations by some of our peers, the important thing to note about tin is that it nearly needs to be cassiterite, which is a simple tin oxide, but is the only really viable mineralisation that can be economically processed. And that's got a lot to do with the density and the contrast of that density to the wall rock around it. And then we've got the macro that overlays all this, that the rising tide that floats all boats, a safe first world jurisdiction. A lot of the tin production around the world comes from third world nations and some of your less desirable holiday destinations. Australia, blessed with most commodities, very safe, reliable first world jurisdiction. And then you've got this overwhelming electrification thematic underlying that as well. So tin, as you may know, is used primarily in solder. So that is used to glue circuitry together. So if you believe in the electrification thematic, tin is part of that. It's an alternative way of playing the copper thematic, if you like. So copper for wires, tin for solder, which glues all the circuitry together. So here we are in southern central New South Wales. It's a large project, 1,200 square kilometres, rural country, good hardy people out here, good farmland, but also with a long history of tin mining. Tin was first discovered in the Ardlethan region in the turn of the last century, in the 20th century, and has been ongoing more or less ever since, or up at least until the 1980s. We surround the Ardlethan mine, which back in the day was the largest tin mine on mainland Australia, until the tin price collapsed back in the mid-80s and it all shut down. And apart from a brief, some brief alluvial mining in the early 2000s, hasn't seen a lot of action today. That mine is excised from our package. It's operated by some private operators who are reprocessing tailings, but our project goes right up to that tenement boundary, up to the mine boundary. So we think there's excellent opportunities surrounding that, around that mine, but we've also got this very large project in which to explore. And so most of that work that we're doing at the moment is focused on the Bygoo North project, about 2 kilometres north of the Ardlethan mine, 7 kilometres from the township of Ardlethan. Great area to explore, lots of infrastructure. Have a look at those grades. I've said high grade already. What is high grade in tin? Well, that result there, 2% tin, that is roughly about, well, let's put it in copper equivalent terms. Tin is trading roughly about 3 times the copper price. So that's equivalent to, say, 6 to 6.5% copper, or about 7 grams gold. So that's high grade in everybody's book, I'm sure. And importantly, close to surface. So we're talking about an open pit mining situation. Bygoo North, there's multiple high-grade zones sitting within this large body of lower-grade mineralisation. We've really been focused on this high-grade, on the high-grade mineralisation. And I guess what we've just completed, a recent drill program in February, relatively small, only a dozen holes, just feeling our way a little bit. But what we want to do is demonstrate the continuity of that high-grade mineralisation and the potential for further growth. And I think we demonstrated that with our the results that we published just recently. A fantastic high-grade result from hole 4, 11 metres at 2.3% tin, just on 100 metres down hole, so that's less than 100 metres vertically below surface, and lots of other high-grade hits underneath it as well. We definitely demonstrated that continuity mineralisation. It's a somewhat stacked system. There's a lot of high-grade zones here that are only defined by 1 or 2 drill holes, and so that is probably one of our lessons from this program is that the mineralisation is only constrained by drilling at the current juncture. But not only high grade, we also got some other broader zones of mineralisation. In the case of hole 9, over 100 metres of mineralisation from top to bottom that's fully diluted. That grade's about 0.3. So again, let's put it in other equivalent terms that you might be more familiar with. 0.3% tin is roughly about 1 gram gold or 1% copper. So when you're talking about an open pit situation, we believe this will be highly economic. It probably doesn't do it justice really, because the processing of tin can be quite simple and quite cheap, provided you have that cassiterite mineralisation, but we think that is a very significant result. So, which leads on to the next part of our unpacking of this project is, great, we've got high grade, now we're looking for scale. You know, we're looking for 20,000 plus contained tin tonnes that we think is a sizable project, not only in Australia but probably globally as well. And so we're starting to look beyond Bygoo North and the rest of the project. Ardlethan East, right next door to the Ardlethan mine, is one of those immediate opportunities that, when unpacking the historical data, we think this has definitely got some potential. A lot of exploration back in the 70s and 80s, doing very shallow drilling, some mapping, has recognised anomalous tin mineralisation at about the 0.1% mark, but it's in rocks that shouldn't have any tin mineralisation in them at all. It's sediments and felsic volcanics, and what we believe is that this tin is being come up through those overlying sediments in thin veins, and what that represents is a tin body, mineralised body underneath. So Ardlethan East will be a focus of our attention going forward. We've just done a short air core program over some of those geochem anomalies and can't wait to see the results for that come back over the coming weeks. And then beyond that again, 20 kilometres worth of strike along the granite contact on the eastern side of the granite contact that is prospective for mineralisation. What we have learned is that a lot of this mineralisation, it's hydrothermally controlled, probably controlled by fault intersections on that granite contact, which can be mapped using high resolution geophysics, which is unfortunately something we don't really have at the moment. It's quite coarse, so we think we can benefit from using some of the newer technologies to do real close-based, high-resolution magnetics, and that will help target some of the next range of targets for our future drill programs. But even without that, there's already some other prospects in the area where there has been some drilling and demonstrates what we believe will be economic grades of mineralisation quite close to surface. And that's without even talking about the western side of the contact that's had no exploration at all. So this, we believe, is a significant scale exploration project. Importantly, cassiterite mineralisation, we've rammed this message home. We're able to pan cassiterite from our RC samples. So that gives us some confidence that this is something that can be readily processed economically. Our field hands went out and just panned RC sample, and we're able to recover cassiterite in that little pile there. That's running about 45% tin, so that's almost a marketable concentrate. So we do have confidence that once we find an economic ore body, we can process it as well. We're halfway through the year, it's hard to believe. We've just completed some additional drilling. The results of those will be coming through over the coming weeks. We've obtained some diamond core that we're going to do some high-level met work that we can prove that we can produce a saleable concentrate. That will also involve some ore sorting. Cassiterite really does lend itself to ore sorting. And as I mentioned, we're going to bring forward some magnetics into the program as well. So a busy year for us ahead in 2025. But let's talk about the value proposition. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the ASX tin universe. There's only a handful of companies, and so if you want exposure to tin and part of that electrification thematic, this is your world. And Caspin, we admit we're starting at the bottom floor, but what this demonstrates is the elevator towards value, and it starts off by drilling holes, generating a resource. All these other companies, you've got Metals X on the end, who are obviously a producer. All the other companies are going through various stages of scoping study. They're at multiples of where we are at the moment, but there is a clear pathway for adding value. And that's what we think we can achieve in a 12 to 18 month time frame. I guess what we're trying to do is take the geology and mineralisation of, say, a Stella and combining it with an open pit mining scenario of a Sky, and that's our space. And we think that there's literally no downside for Caspin shareholders at our current valuation. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. 5 compelling reasons to be a shareholder. We've obviously got a great board and management team and a very strong technical team underneath that. The Bygoo Tin project is a fantastic opportunity, not just in tin, but an exceptional discovery story. We've got an attractive valuation, a lot of work going on in 2025, and with that, over the next 5-10 years, I think it's a great future for tin as well. So it's a great opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. Get into Caspin right now on the ground floor and come along with us along the journey. Thank you.